Well, spring is the one time a year where I can garden in my house. I can sit on the floor with my big bag of soil, my pots, my plant markers, and I can take all of my plants that have 4 in a container that are getting too leggy and too crowded and put them in their own little pot, which means that they are on their way to going into the garden, just one step closer. One thing that I've learned that I can pass on is this says that it's really for seed starting, but I like to use it in the house even for repotting my plants, because normal soil, when they're that young, gets too heavy, especially when you want to keep the roots damp. And you want to keep the roots just a little bit damp because they can dry out quickly. At least that's my experience. And if one of these dries out a little too quickly, then it really stresses out the plant because their root system is still getting established and it's rather shallow and small. So I've learned another thing in my years of doing this, and still yet I forgot. I went ahead and I graduated from the little pellets. I start all my seeds from rare seeds and heirlooms, and I start them out in those little greenhouses with the pellets, and then I graduate them into a peat moss pot. And each time I do it, I forget that I shouldn't do that, because even though they're larger, they absorb so much liquid and become so soggy, and they deteriorate very rapidly. So this was a waste of my money, this pot. This is nice if maybe you have a week before you plant it, because you can technically put this whole thing in the ground. I've never done that. I know it works, but I would probably break it apart a little bit just to give it a head start. But I'm never gonna buy these again. Also, I like to identify the plant without doing a marker, and writing on these is pointless, because it usually, this is nice, it didn't fade. Usually it fades. So I'm never buying these again unless I only have a week before I transplant. And who only has a week before they transplant? I stumbled upon these little ones on Amazon, mainly because the stores just didn't have their supplies out. And they were a little bit pricey, but they held up nice. So I might get these again. These are sturdier. They're made out of more of a recycled material. They're not solely peat, I don't think. And I might get these again. They're a nice little staging area for the plants that are maybe 2 inches tall. But I might just skip those, because if I were to skip this, what's the harm in skipping that really, and just going straight to something like this? These are great for tomato plants because of the depth. And each time I take a tomato plant and I transplant it very deeply up to the first set of leaves. But that's how you want to plant it in the garden. So keep that in mind. When you transplant your tomatoes, plant them deeply. This one, for instance, right here, you see how this pot is, if I pick it up, it's going to fall apart. So it's just holding on by a thread. When I transplant that into one of these, I'm probably going to go up to here. I might even bypass this and go up to here. And these, after a while, I add more soil. I'm always tempted to press down a little bit. Don't do that. They're so easy to break, and you'll feel that little snap, and then it's too late. The other thing I like to do is fluff this soil up, because it does, even though it's the seed starter soil, you don't want it to get soggy and bog down the plant. I keep these moist because, like I mentioned, there's nothing worse than something drying out. One thing you do have to watch out for, though, which I've just now noticed, is apparently I did not have enough air circulation. So this is going to be changed immediately that looks like a dangerous situation. In fact, all of these have this. So that's my fault for not having enough air moving. You'll see all the different tomatoes and pepper plants that I have, and they all seem to be doing pretty good. They start off kind of leggy in the little seed starter houses. They get leggy fast. But don't worry, it's not the end of the world. Like I said, you just have to put them in soil very deeply, the tomatoes, and get a lot of light on them. Get a lot of light. I'll leave these on if I'm home all the time. I usually don't leave them on at night. I don't want anything that could possibly be a fire hazard. So they get enough light, I think. They could probably always get more. You see them leaning a little bit towards the light outside. But now that May is coming up fast, on the days where it's warm out, I'll set them out for just an hour or two when the temperature's in the high 60s. And then I'll bring them in just to harden them up. So what I'm doing now is the pots that might have 3 or 4, I kind of cheat with these little peat pots, and I'll put 3 or 4 pepper plants in them, and then I'll take out the ones that are the very best looking, like this one, or yeah, probably just this one, and I'll put it in a pot like this to itself and add a little marker. I'll take whatever I've written there and I will put it on a white marker and we'll be good to go. So that's my little story for today. Hope you liked it.